Welcome back. It's always a joy and an honor and a surprise when we have Bill Gallagher in the house with us. Bill is an interesting guy. He's he's a counselor, pastoral counselor. He heads up TeamWorks, which is an amazing organization that comes into your organizations and helps you with staff issues, good, bad, and indifferent, challenging.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Teamworks-works.com is the website. There's a picture of the landing page. By the way, if you sign up, every once in a while you get these little emails that are pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, how you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I don't think we had. Are we losing them? Are we losing them? Do we have them?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, we had some audio.
Feels good to be on, Perry. It feels good to be on.
Well, yeah, it's always interesting to have you. Okay, so here we are in a season of graduation. This is interesting. We experienced this weekend before last. We went to one of our grandchildren, our grandson's graduation from college. Our granddaughter graduates in a couple of weeks. It's now we're the grandparents, so we're not the parents, but we're the grandparents. It's it just kind of puts your brain on tilt.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. I mean, we're supposed to raise them to release them.
Yeah.
Right? That's God's divine providential plan.
Yeah.
Like it or not.
Yeah.
Our goal is to raise them and release them as parents. And but it's a little bittersweet because we are having to recalibrate our entire past 18 years or so.
Right.
Because now they're graduating or going off, or maybe they're working a full-time job and moving out. And so it is a season of change.
Okay.
Which is uncomfortable for most people, even if it's a good change.
All right, so what do you do to the helicopter parent that won't let go? You ground them?
Well, I think that the helicopter parent, especially if they're believers, they must understand that this is part of God's plan. And they need, more than anything else, they need to trust the Lord.
Okay.
With their son, their daughter's life and future. No matter which direction they take, and frequently they take different directions that we would recommend as Christian parents, we still must trust the Lord's work in their life and the work He's called us to do prior to them leaving. Trust is a big issue. So what I would say to a helicopter parent is you need to dive deeper and ask the Holy Spirit to help you to trust the Lord's and take your hands off.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, but it's still the right answer. It's still the right purpose.
Okay.
And that takes time. Obviously, that would take time, I think, Perry.
Okay.
To let go. Let go.
So then comes the empty nest syndrome.
Yeah, then there's the empty nest syndrome. That's another whole different syndrome.
Okay, but it's happening. I mean, now it's happening.
Yes, a lot to talk about there.
Do you think we misunderstand high school graduations? And let me qualify that.
Okay.
We think they have reached the age of adulthood, maturity, and they're ready to take on life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where that idea came from.
Well, it's
generally not reality. Generally not reality.
But a lot of people say, you're done now with school, go on with your life.
Yeah, no, it doesn't necessarily.
Because we don't see the push for higher education anymore.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not complaining one way or the other. Yes. It's just that, no, there's more to learn. I mean, high school, you're still 18 years old here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, one of the very, very happy experiences I've had is that, well, what happens, it's kind of like a relay race. You run a relay race, and then when you're done with your segment of that 4-part race, you pass the baton. Mm-hmm. So we pass the baton now, in many, many ways, to our adult child that is leaving the home. And we can't run the race for them anymore. Mm-hmm. It's their race. It's not our race. So, but the happy reality that I've come to is that my two oldest kids, my immediate oversight authority of my now adult kids is gone. And now my role has shifted to mentor, friend, advisor. And it has been wonderful to have my son, who's very successful in life, call me and ask me a question about insurance. Or what should he do in this situation? Or what do I recommend about that? Same with my daughter. Many, many calls. Dad, what do you think? And it is just a fulfilling experience. And that's part of them not completely being ready, but learning. And I get a chance to participate in that. I love it.
Do we prepare our graduates to understand, again, I don't know if it's high school or college or somewhere in between there, that they are no longer under your spiritual umbrella?
I don't think so. I don't think that's something that I think we just have the optimism and the hope that all of the seeds that we've sown, spiritual seeds that we have sown, will produce the way we hope for. And I don't think a lot of parents think about their adult children, going in a different direction and exploring life. I don't think a lot. I never thought about that. And a couple of my kids have, gone their own direction.
Mm-hmm.
Gone their own direction.
Okay, but principally, I guess maybe even spiritually, they're not under your tent anymore. They're under their own.
They're under their own, and they're under God's, most important.
Well, that's what the point being is.
Yeah.
They're accountable to God, not necessarily. You pray for them, but you don't have authority over them.
Yeah. All I would say, I think our two most responsible things that God would have us do when we send our son and daughters out into the real world, it's the real world now, is to pray for them and to be available to respond to them if they have questions and other things like that, and obviously have them engage in our life. But it's the expectation thing that we have as parents now that we have to really analyze and recalibrate. It's our expectations.
What do you say to parents that at this season, all of a sudden they're experiencing, they may not admit it, but deep in their heart, they're experiencing a loss?
I would totally validate them.
This is now an adult. You have no control over this person. They have reached this age. They're on their own.
Yes, well, anybody that's close with their children and have the highest hopes for their kids, obviously, go through a season of grief. And grief is just another word for loss. It's a good kind of grief, though. It's a grief that God has designed for all families. And I would validate them. I would say, yes, this is definitely a season of loss, and the Lord wants you to go through those emotions. He doesn't want you to stay stuck there, I'll tell you that right now. But he wants you to go through those emotions and experience them, because as we go through grief, he presses it even closer to us anyway. So I would validate them. I would not tell them to let it go immediately. I would walk with them, because it is a bittersweet event in our life. And hopefully you end up on the sweet side of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's an interesting time. No matter where you are in the family pecking order, when you see someone graduate, it is saying that this season is done, this season's starting.
Yeah, it's a new season, and God is a God of change. I will say this, though, it's kind of humorous to me. But, especially, moms and dads, it depends on their personality. Which one has an easier time letting them go? I frequently find, though, that moms have a hard time letting their child go. Because they're encouragers, there's nurturers. And I've seen some moms say, I'm really struggling. I'm just leading up to this big day, that final year, they really struggle about letting their darling go. And then come around April or May, they start changing their tune and going, now I'm excited for them to go, because that last year that they're home is a very difficult year. So a parent that originally is hesitant and even sad to see them go are now counting the days to their graduation. That happens too.
Is it bad for a parent once they graduate has graduated and they're starting to move out to immediately turn their room into a sewing room or an office?
No, I think it's the smartest thing they can do, because one thing it tells the kids is that you are now on your own.
What about the sign out front that says room for rent?
It's a time of change. And actually, now that you bring that up, it is a time for couples, if you're at that age, where you might want to downsize, or you might want to move to a different area, or you might want to do something that you would have done if you didn't have kids.
Yeah.
It could be an exciting time as well. A time of change, for sure.
Okay, bottom line, I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, let go.
Let go. Ask the Lord to help you. Let it go. Because that's what His will is. His will, His desire is for you to raise and release them and let it go and trust Him. Biggest issue, trust Him for the oversight and the management now of your adult child's life.
Okay. Do you speak into their life or wait till you're asked to?
I think it's better to, well, just let me answer this real quick. I think it's better to wait till they ask. But if they're doing something that is very inappropriate and very clearly commented on in Scripture as not a godly behavior, I think you need to speak up one time and then let it go. Matter of fact, I heard a program on the Dove many, many years ago. Remember when we used to be with, what was it, Family Radio?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard one of the interviews there, and it was a lady calling in, and her daughter and some of her best friends' sons, raised together in the Lord, in the church, they graduate, they shack up, they move in with each other. Devastated the parents, devastated them. And the advice that was Randy Carlson, remember? Randy Carlson? The advice that he gave was, if you've raised them in the Lord and in the Scriptures, and they've had strong signs of loving Jesus, they know the truth. They already know the truth. If you're concerned about the direction that they're going after this graduation or this move out or change in life, warn them one time and never say anything else.
Okay, I get that, because I follow that. At the end of the day, if somebody's been raised right and goes down a different road, I really don't think you have to say anything. I think they know they're doing wrong.
They already know.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I mean, just to add to this, I've heard some believers say whose parents, they went way off to the other, changed their whole lifestyle and ideology. And, far from the parents, saying, we're praying for you, we're walking with you, the Lord is going to work in your life, and, you know better, that one conversation. I see the other extreme, that parents totally embrace the things that the Scriptures are clear on what you should not do. And then I've heard those kids actually say, that was a disappointment to me, because that's not how my parents lived the whole life I was raised, and now I've gone off the rails and they've gone with me, and I'm disappointed in my parents.
That's big. All right, let me take a quick break. Teamworks-works.com, that's Bill's website, and pastoral counselor, and of course, basically Teamworks. His team comes into your team and helps you guys harmonize and become more productive, get along, smile, and have more barbecues. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. We're with the Psycho Answer Man, Bill Gallagher.
Psycho Answer Man?
Yeah. He can't get his microphone to work.
Is it working now?
You got him?
Is it working, guys?
Yeah, we got him. Okay.
Hey.
All right. Anyway, good morning, or good afternoon, good
Good, whatever.
Yeah, Psycho Answer Man. All right, look, part of this interesting thing about graduation, you mentioned earlier sometimes that last year, parents in their own mind began the transition too. It goes from, oh gosh, this is their last year, to sooner or later as they get close to graduation, boy, this is going to change, time for us to maybe make some changes.
Yes, yes.
It also says to the family, to the parents, have we really planned ahead right?
Yes, and I think ideally if you can start working in your mind and your heart with your partner or your spouse, the year that they're leaving, and start making plans for yourself, like what is it going to look like? For example, you know, the people that train on change experts. Nobody likes change, even good change. It's uncomfortable.
Well, we got it going on here with this remodel.
Oh, I see. It looks good, by the way.
By the way, you're going to have to come in and counsel everybody. Nobody here likes change.
Well, okay. Yeah, well, that's just what I'm saying. Perfect timing for that. So the people that teach on change say there's 3 steps that you should really acknowledge. This is good for leadership, too, in a workplace, because there's going to be changes in their workplace. Is first of all, explain why the change was necessary anyway. Well, this is an obvious reason. They're graduating, okay. But if you don't explain why this particular change is necessary, people resist the change. A change imposed is a change opposed. A change forced or imposed on someone is a change opposed. So, but we already know why they're leaving, okay. The second thing's really important, though. What are things going to look like in our home when our graduating student leaves? What's going to be different about it? What is it going to look like? How are we going to function? What are we going to do? And that's the time to start preparing and talking about your life after your adult child leaves. You know, maybe you need to be involved in a different ministry in the church. Maybe you need to take on a pickleball hobby. Maybe you need to travel a little bit more. But will your relationship, I mean, it's going to impact the relationship if you don't have a plan. And by the way, while we're talking about that, I have a book here called The Couple's Retirement Puzzle. And although maybe you're not retiring when your adult child goes out, this is an excellent book on the conversations to have specifically when you have an empty nest or your child is gone. It's a very, very, very good book. And they emphasize having a plan.
Okay.
So I think if you wait till after they're gone and then start talking about it, it could be a little bit more stressful.
Okay.
So I think it's very, very important to, what is it going to look like when our child's gone? How frequently will they come home? By the way, sidebar note, you know, usually it's probably, I would say frequently, not always. But when your graduating student comes home for spring break or Christmas or even partial summer, it generally is pretty awkward because they've already cut the strings. Most of the kids have already cut the strings and they're their own authority now. So sometimes it can be a little stressful when they come back for that very reason. For that very reason.
That makes sense.
So preparation is very, very, very good. Yet, it's part of the growth process for us as believers. It's not our race anymore. And I think there's a big difference. Matter of fact, I know there's a big difference. Let's say they're in a real need, a financial need. Let's say something like that comes up. There's a huge difference between compassionate assistance and enabling.
Oh.
That's a good topic to discuss someday, like what are the differences? But there's a huge difference in coming alongside to continue to help launch, if you will, versus doing it for them.
Okay.
Enabling means doing for your graduated son or daughter what they must be doing for themselves.
Okay.
And that's really not all that healthy, because then they become used to that and then they feel entitled and here you go, you know?
Okay.
So, yeah, there's some of the things to be aware of.
Wow. Okay, so do you say to your graduating student, have a nice life?
No. I say I'm proud of you. You've worked hard for this, son or daughter. This is the moment. And, you know, think about our grief, you know, the grief of most parents.
But then look at the joy and the rejoicing they're having on graduation day. We're supposed to engage in that. So look at the differences on the emotions that we go through. Most kids that graduate and leave are thrilled, have a little bit of fear. It is a challenge, it is new. And that's what we need to support as parents.
Do churches have a role in any of this?
Well, I think that certainly, I mean, you can have a support group if you feel you need it. I think it's something that is not a bad thing to teach on at this time of the year. If people do topical sermons, Pastor topical, it'd be a nice switch to talk about this, you know, during this time of year in the fellowship. You can, I suppose you can develop a support group or just talk to other friends that have been through it, you know, and have people pray you through the transition, you know.
Okay, I want to come back to really a struggling parent when their whole life has been wrapped up in raising their children. And then in today's world, it gets magnified by the problems with public education. So some parents and families maybe have made the decision to homeschool or to be much more involved in their kids' lives.
Yeah.
And that raises the level of emotion much, much higher because it's not as if you're putting your child on a school bus and you'll see him 8 hours later.
Yeah.
You're there all the time. You're now a part of this process that's very intimate in many ways.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all those years of investment comes to an end. This is almost a PTSD moment for a parent.
It can be. It can be. Yet we know that it's what is appropriate, what God has willed for most families. You know, there are cases where, you know, kids stay behind to help the family, and it's appropriate, you know. So I say grieve the process. Let's not pretend or act like it doesn't hurt, but go to the Lord. Go to the Lord multiple times a day if you need to and say, Lord, just release me of this, help me to trust you, and realize, well, and I've thought of this many times. I mean, none of my kids, as far as I know, were the stinkers and the troublemakers that I was at that age. I mean, I was sent away for 6.5 months when I was 17 and I turned 18, incarcerated. So when I
don't know why.
No, I thought it'd be a surprise to many people. My wife said, no, I know why.
Yeah.
But one of the powerful things is when you start to get a little fearful that you do not know what's going on or you haven't heard from them for a while, which is another thing that can happen. Like, does your life end with that or what's going on? Please, and many people would relate to this, think about where you were.
Well, that's my next point. Does anybody really become totally transparent with their parents? And I think if you're honest with yourself, the answer is no. Everybody keeps things from their parents, right?
Yes. And every one of my kids,
Probably when they hit 30 or later, have come forward with some pretty embarrassing confessions.
Okay, well, that's because...
But nothing as bad as I did.
Okay, but see, that also says that your home was comfortable enough where they could be transparent even if it was 30 years later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the point being, I don't know of anybody that does not tell their parents everything. It just doesn't happen.
it just doesn't happen. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got to accept that. Okay, one last question before
All right,
we're on,
okay.
because it's just a quickie. What about the parent that's too happy to get him out of the house?
Well, that opens up a big subject. If too happy,
Well, you know what I'm saying?
well, it could be because of that last year, because they had a.
But I've talked to parents that can't wait till he's gone. Can't wait till she's gone.
Well, that's not a.
So that tells me there's family dynamics that are.
There's family dynamics, and it also tells me, you know, because the question comes up: when is it the right time for your adult child to leave? And I think one of the times is when you're relieved to see them go. Now, that doesn't mean it has to ruin your relationship forever, but it also can put a spotlight on some things that need to be healed in that family.
Okay. So if they're in this transition, they've graduated, but they haven't left home yet, give that some space to happen.
Give it some space and don't call them all the time, and get to the point, hopefully, where they can call you, and it'll never be as much as you hope for. I can say that in most cases.
Okay. Lower your expectations.
Drop the bar.
Yeah.
Drop the bar a little bit, and
Right.
this is a new phase in their life. It can be quite exciting once you work through the grief.
All right. Well, the Psycho Answer Man has a website.
Psycho answer.
Teamworks-works.com. Teamworks-work. I say that lovingly, but anyway, he does have a great team that come to your team and work with you. He's also a pastoral counselor. Doesn't do a whole lot of that much more, but anyway, teamworks-works.com. That's how you get a hold of Bill. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Good to see
seeing
you.